That's great.
Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us today for this webinar. I think it's about the best webinar I've ever been part of, and I'm so excited to have you with us today. We have a lot of people still coming in. We had a great, very large registration, but I want to get started for those of you who are here. My name's Rita Wolfson. I am the founder of Financial Social Work, and you'll be learning about that. And I'll also be learning more about financial behavioral health today. To do some housekeeping, these are answers to the most commonly asked questions, along with some suggestions for you. Well, the most commonly asked question is about CEs, and we have great content, but no CEs on our monthly free webinars. The certification includes 20 CEUs from National NASW. We have messages for you in the chat box. We do not share the slides, they are proprietary. The recording of this webinar will be up on our website and Facebook and YouTube channels in the next day or so. If you have questions, you can type them into the question box throughout the webinar training, and we will answer as many as possible. I always like to ask everyone who joins us to take a moment, take a deep breath in, and let it out. Having done these so many times, I like everyone to kind of settle in, because when we talk about money, we all have different reactions. And I begin with our financial social work affirmation. It goes, just for today, I will love myself enough to face my fears, practice self-acceptance, and embrace hope. I will silence my inner critic, speak my truth, and make peace with myself and my past. Just for today, I will give myself permission to eliminate toxic people, beliefs, and behaviors from my life. And just for today, I will prepare for a better tomorrow by healing my relationship with my money and myself today. And after this session, you will be well on your way with those goals. I think that this affirmation very much captures what financial social work is all about. So a quick look at today's topics. I will be telling the story of financial social work. I'll talk a little about what money is. We will spend some time for sure on the relationship with money itself, because they're such major components of this work. We'll talk about financial trauma, financial behavioral wealth, financial health and wellness, and we have quite a few suggestions for less traditional ways of financial healing. And then we have a surprise announcement for everyone at the end. So let's get started with a poll to learn more about who's in our audience. What percentage of your clients' work, their time, is spent on money problems, stress, and issues? So let me pull up the first poll. I have a few for you today, and I will launch it. Most often we have guest speakers each month, and I always tell them what a great audience we have, how hands-on you are, and how much you participate. And we always appreciate that. Okay. Get a few more people to take the poll. And I'll go ahead and count it down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So 71% of you voted, and I will share it with you. Okay, very interesting. I really wasn't sure how this would break down, but clearly most of you uh, do this work. And I hope you'll be as excited about what you learned today as I've been in creating it. So thank you for that. And I have one other poll about who our audience is. And then we're going to get right into the content. I thought it would be really interesting to know this. If you're in the other, which is adding up, you can certainly put it into the question box so we can find out what other titles you have. Okay, 50% of you have voted. Anybody else want to come in here? Okay, so I'm seeing that the majority of you are other. So let me close it. Again, 70% of you took the poll. Let me share those results. So, very interesting breakdown. Oh, did anybody list what the other titles are in the question
Yeah.
box?
Yes, we have a lot of answers as case manager, advocate, young adult advocate, domestic violence advocate, graduate student, social worker, and financial education and counselor.
Great, that's interesting. Thanks, everybody. Okay, let's get going here. So, financial social work. It's kind of why we're all here. And I am going to tell you that story. I started all of this 24 years ago. It was 1997. And I developed the word feminomics. And when you create your own word, I believe you should be able to create your own definition. And I gave it the definition of the gender of money. Back then, when I would be live speaking to an audience and ask about the word feminomics and talk about the gender of money, there were a considerable number of people who did not feel there was a gender of money. But since I've already learned a few things about you, who you are in our audience, I'm pretty confident you understand that there is a gender of money because poverty does have a woman's face. And we do learn about the feminization of poverty. For me, feminomics has these components. It's the fact that women earn less, live longer, are often charged more for products and services, are disproportionately impacted by financial illiteracy. And you can go ahead and take a quick glance at the rest of that list, and you will see that the United States Constitution does not guarantee equal rights for women. So that's me back in 1997. I didn't know that I was taking on such a difficult challenge. And I write about it in the new ebook that you will be the first to learn about. So back then, what was happening for me when I started talking about feminomics, which then became financial social work, many people said we shouldn't talk to clients about money. Now, I was a fairly new social worker back then, but I really believed that so much of the work that we in the helping professions do had a financial component. So the 12 grand challenges of social work which you can see in this pretty graphic, while yes, there is the build financial capability for all, I think that every single one of them has a financial component. And I was pretty confident about that. However, a lot of people did say there's no such thing as financial social work. So mostly what was happening back then was people saying there is no such thing and we shouldn't talk to clients about money. However, I persevered and I just kept going. I put one foot in front of the other every day. And up here you can see just some of the ways that we have moved financial social work forward in the almost 2.5 decades since I created it. One of the pieces that I never anticipated was that we would become international. And based on the fact that people thought we shouldn't be talking about money, I still find it very exciting that we have graduates in Hong Kong, Taiwan, many in Canada. We are in Australia and Israel and Iceland and Finland. I believe it is because it is a behavioral model, which we'll talk about more in a few minutes. Then came 2020 and COVID. And COVID changed the world. It changed a lot of things for a lot of people. Most of it was not great. And we also experienced Black Lives Matter. That changed a lot of things too. We can hope for the better. And how that played out, what for us was the fact that on these monthly webinars, we've been doing them for years now, and we usually average around 300 to 600 people at each one. And I am just checking to make sure. Olga, did I say I was turning on the recording? I want to make sure I'm recording.
You record. It's fine.
Okay, great. Okay. So we, as I mentioned earlier, we often have a guest speaker, and we had one scheduled for last year in April. But when I saw what was happening with COVID, I felt that we really needed to do something around that, and we did. And when we did that, instead of the usual 300 to 500 or 600 people, we had 12,000 people register for that webinar. And then in June, we did one on financial social work is foundational to economic and social justice. We had 6,000 people register for that one. And we've been averaging thousands of people attending our monthly webinars. So then we came to 2021. And I realized, okay, we've done some amazing things, had some amazing experiences, but we didn't come this far to only come this far. I still had so many unanswered questions because the reality is that while no one chooses to have money problems, most people do. Why? I have this question, why? I've been asking it for such a long time, and I'm still asking it. And the answer is still a bit elusive, but it's always about how complicated money is. because money and life are so closely related, so integrated, and they can't really be separated. Money is always that elephant in the room. And money's about so much more than dollars, cents, debt, math, budgets, and crisis intervention. And that's what we're going to be spending our time together looking at. How do we get past all of those basic expectations? So financial social work is that intersection of social work, politics, the economy, gender, economic, and social justice in all financial inequity. And you can look at this list and see just some of the pieces that we address and that are part of what needs our attention when it comes to economic and social justice, gender equity, and all of the other pieces that we work in. So at the core of financial social work is what I've been mentioning along the way here, our relationship with money and our relationship with self. Very important, because it is the psychosocial piece that explores the fundamentals of financial health, the thoughts, feelings, attitudes, beliefs, experiences, and values that drive financial behavior. And we have to understand and address financial behavior, how we earn, spend, save, share, and borrow. It is a behavioral model, because until and unless behavior changes, nothing changes. Changing behavior isn't simple, and it doesn't happen overnight, but until it does change, clients and those of us here sharing this training are going to stay where we are, either in this financial social work incorporates a trans-theoretical model, and we move from pre-contemplation to contemplation and around, and it's how we look at the issues of clients struggling with financial problems and stress and trauma. So, what is your or your agency's top financial goal? So let's pull up that pool. Okay. And we'll launch it. A budget, a savings account, a job, a home or apartment, something else. If you're in that something else category, go ahead and put it in the question box. Going to get, we're having some people writing in the question box. And we're a little slower. Okay, so about 65% of you have voted. I'll go ahead and close it and share with you. So you can see less than a third on the budget, but a lot of others. Olga, can you share some of those others?
Yes. Financial stability, self-sufficiency, financial empowerment, financial education, financial literacy, afford healthcare and basic needs, health insurance, home ownership, pay for healthcare, financial freedom. We have actually so many. I can continue.
All right, that's good. And I'm sorry, everybody. Olga is with us. She is all things tech and all things wonderful. Thank you, Olga, for that and for everything you do for us. Okay.
I
So,
will send all these answers for future for you.
okay, great. It's very interesting. Okay. So, hide the results and we can keep going here. So, I was asking that because I was curious about what your goals are for clients, what your agency's goals are. Most of all, what your clients' goals are for themselves. And that would be, I think if I asked you to put those in the question box, it might explode the question box. But maybe if we have time at the end, although this hour is flying by, because focusing on dollars, cents, debt, math, budgets, crisis intervention, and all these basics of money management is not likely to result in the behavioral change required for improved outcomes. So let me just ask you this. I don't have too many polls left, but let's see, I have, I'm curious about your answer to this one. This is your answer. What's your thinking? Or what do you think your clients? Okay. I was looking and thinking that these are some poll questions that I've never asked before that I'm excited to see the results. Okay. So we have 65% of you have voted. I'll go ahead and count it down. And we definitely have some winners here. And I'm going to go ahead and 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And I will share it with you. And I see that one of the words that I should probably have had in there wasn't in there. So very strong on life and control. I'm gonna hide that and keep going. Okay. So when we talk about money, what are we really talking about? And for some reason, I did not have power in that poll, but the reality is that the people who have the money have the power. We don't have to like it, but it is a sad reality. And of course, control. Well, and there's many aspects of control.
I'm sorry, we can see your screen. We just see quick poll window. Can you?
Okay. Yes, I wasn't. Oh, okay. Thanks, Olga. So what am I doing wrong here? Oh, did I not share it? I didn't share it. Okay. Thanks for telling me. Okay. So you can see that.
No.
Are you seeing the poll now?
No, just share again your screen. We don't see anything. Yeah, we see shares a poll.
You still
just click next slide. Maybe stop sharing and start sharing again.
I'm stuck, Olga.
Um,
It's not sharing?
it's sharing, but we see the poll question. If anyone sees the same, can you share in the question box? Yeah, the same. Seeing the poll question, thank you all. Just stop sharing your screen and start again, Rita.
I'm sorry, I don't understand.
Can you please stop sharing your screen when you normally start sharing and start sharing it again?
Okay, so show screen, stop showing screen. Stop showing screen. Okay.
And share again like you normally do. Yeah, now we can see the
Great.
question when we talk about money.
Okay. Sorry, everybody. When we talk about money, what are we really talking about? And that answer is power, which I somehow neglected to put in the poll. But it is because people who have the money have the power and also the control. Now, some people spend because it gives them a sense of control. And there's so many issues tied up with all of that. But the reality is that we want life to be in one place and money to be in another. However, no matter what we do, money and life, and most of you had said control and life and money are very much integrated and they can be very messy. So let's keep going here with some new content. Relationship with money and self. This is a core concept of financial social work. So traditional advice for coping with the money problems that so many people have begins with making a budget, keeping a budget, reducing debt, spending less, improving your credit score, and creating an emergency fund, planning for retirement, some estate planning, the real money management basics. However, when we look at the relationship we all have with money and self, and talking about it pre and post pandemic, for financially fragile clients, the connection between money and overall health and wellness places them at greater risk for escalating physical, emotional, and mental health problems. Pre-pandemic, the financial health and wellness of most Americans was perpetually at very high risk. Post-pandemic, most Americans' financial situations will be even more fragile, will potentially exceed available resources, and they are going to require more updated, comprehensive support and services because there's going to be a continuing decline in people's financial services. 78% of Americans were living paycheck to paycheck pre-pandemic. The pandemic hit and the paychecks went away, but then the subsidies came and then the subsidies went. And now there's more financial support, although a lot of states are taking away some of that. So it has been a roller coaster. But in the end, there will be so many millions of Americans who are struggling and needing our help. And budgeting, banking, saving, and the other traditional money management basics cannot and will not meet clients' needs. Because before anyone can cope with the dollar cents and budgets, they must heal their relationship with their money and with themselves. Because when you have an unhealthy relationship with money and self, you are more likely to isolate, self-criticize, feel trapped, self-sabotage, and behave irrationally. You're also more likely to feel or be out of control, that's C word again, avoid opening and paying your bills, feel worthless and helpless, not enjoy spending or saving, experience shame, guilt, hopelessness, and so many other negative feelings. And because when you have an unhealthy relationship with money and self, you are so much more vulnerable, not only to pandemics, but illness and just the many that we're going to get into, the many ways that money plays a role in our lives. And certainly that leads us to this component of financial trauma, which results from one major or numerous smaller financial losses, struggles, or changes in financial circumstances. Obviously, there is no one specific cause or factor that creates financial trauma or the physical, emotional, and other deficits resulting from the multiple stressors of trying to survive with insufficient financial resources. The many negative impacts of financial trauma, you all have seen this with your clients, the increased anxiety, the difficulty coping, the poorer lack of decision making. It affects home, it affects every area of life, work. It reduces sense of self, self-worth, self-confidence. So financial trauma prevents anyone experiencing it from learning new money management skills, tools, or information. And that is a core concept because we're always trying to help clients create budgets and stick with budgets and take certain basic steps. But until we really address the relationship with money and self, clients really can't make that leap. They can't learn new skills. Here, they have cognitive delays. They have an inability to process relationships and emotions, and an inability to predict and make inferences to see the cause and effect. If you do this, if you have a budget, your life will be better. And wariness of the future feels unpredictable and out of control because too often it is. The physical and mental toll of financial trauma limits everyone's interest and their ability to change financial behavior. And that's a really big problem because behavior has to change. There's so much going on that clients don't understand and they need help with. Financially traumatized clients need to reduce trauma-centric living and thinking, and they need to learn to forego stressful financial situations. They need to learn to talk about debt in healthier ways, identify and avoid their trauma triggers, shift their money mindset, and heal their relationship with money and self. I think you're getting the money and self part. I know I'm saying it a lot because it's so important. So a little bit more about financial social work and how this all comes together. Financial social work is interactive, reflective, and strengths-based. It's educational, motivational, and supportive, holistic, multidisciplinary, and has this strong healing component. It's hopeful and helpful, and it works really well with individuals and really well in groups. The process is to heal the relationship with money by recognizing and taking ownership of your financial health. And healing that relationship with self is about self-discovery, self-care, and self-healing. I love this quote, without a solid foundation, you'll have trouble creating anything of value. So let's look a little more at financial behavioral health now. What, if any, role do you think money plays in physical, mental, and emotional well-being? Let's see if we can do this poll and not get into trouble again. Okay. This is the next to the last poll, and I've launched it. Okay, votes are coming in. Of course, we have a very money-wise audience, but I had to ask it anyway, or I wanted to ask it anyway. Okay, 63% of you have voted, 64. I'll count it down, 3, 2, 1. All right, I'll close it and I'll share it. So, smart group, you know, it has a very significant relationship there is between those two. Okay, I'm going to hide that and keep on going. So, financial behavioral health, identifying, addressing, and reducing the problems, stress, anxiety, shame, and other harmful feelings that result when money, physical, mental, and emotional health negatively converge. So that's our definition of financial behavioral health. And any experience with economic hardship, especially as a child or young adult, may result in long-term financial trauma with the potential to erode relationship with money and self. So these are articles. I'm just going to share 2 or 3 things here that so perfectly tied in with what we're examining and discussing and learning together today. So child poverty causes long-lasting financial trauma, but it can be overcome. So that's an article from a health magazine this month. This one is research from last month, financial stress linked to chronic pain later in life. Researchers from the University of Georgia found that people struggling financially in midlife are likely to be at increased risk of chronic pain as they age. And they believe that it stems from that lack of control over financial struggles, which leads to physiological responses. And they've determined that the stress from finances can lead to stress in other areas of life. Compounding stress makes people more susceptible to physical ailments. And that may be true later on in life, and I think it's also true as you're living through it. It all comes down to lack of control that affects the brain, and it's the brain's regions where stress is activated and can launch processes that lead to physical health conditions. And this is an article I read just today that I thought I would share with you. This is for and about seniors and the fact that many have equity to tap into. And obviously, many of the clients we work with do not. But it gave me the opportunity to mention the concept of financial toxicity to you. This article goes on to talk about, and I gave you the link to the research on the other side of it, because seniors who don't have enough money or patience particularly the term financial toxicity comes out of the cancer area, and it means that, or indicates that many people with chronic illness end up filing bankruptcy and must decide whether to go for doctor's appointments or fill their prescriptions. And it's very harmful in so many ways. So I thought I would share that, and I had to share this. The Times today had an article on inflation, and we've not faced inflation in some time, but it is happening right now. I live in North Carolina, and we are part of the fuel pipe that was just hacked. So here in North Carolina, about 75% of the gas stations have no gas. And you can imagine that the prices have spiked. And what's interesting about, while I was looking for a graphic to share with you, is the fact that as prices start to increase, and I'm sure most of you on this training have seen how the price of most everything in the supermarket and everywhere else has increased. Will they ever decrease is the question. So inflation is definitely raising its head. But when we get back to the trauma piece, it has a physical effect. It has an emotional outcome. It impacts mental health. And if you're new to financial social work, we've been doing these webinars for many years. So all those recordings are on our free resource page. And we've talked about a lot of this in the past too. So financial health and wellness. These are the dimensions of wellness, which is a dynamic process of change and growth. Definitely much more than just the absence of illness. I'm not going to go through all of this, but you can see the components involved, the financial behaviors, present or missing, the economic factors, present or missing, the psychological factors, the social factors, the knowledge and experience factors. As I said way back at the beginning, money is complicated. So what you need to know is that the primary predictor of financial health and wellness is, and you probably have learned this by now, an individual's relationship with his or her money and self. Financial health and wellness are essential components of physical, mental, emotional, and social well-being. It is a universal truth, not universally understood or accepted. It's financial health and wellness are essential components of physical, mental, emotional, and social well-being. That is a critical part of this training. Crisis intervention as the principal method for helping clients with financial issues perpetuates a belief that financial problems are unavoidable and unpredictable. Some may be, but most are not. So when we treat all financial problems as a crisis. We really fail to serve clients. I actually spoke with a woman yesterday who talked about how her agency provided money for different needs to their clients, and how she learned that when clients couldn't return to her agency for financial help, they moved on to the next agency that would provide them financial help. In this way, we perpetuate a client's dependency, and we don't move them towards any type of proactive behavior. We stay in the reactive, inactive mode. Financial health cannot and must not be an afterthought, just a specialized area of study, or available to some and not others. I think everyone should have access to greater financial health, but that doesn't seem to be what's happening today. Clients need a more hands-on, in-depth, engaging, and relevant framework to improve their relationship with money and self, and to understand what's in it for me. Clients want to know, how's this going to help me? Why should I put in the time and the effort? What does this look like? It looks like making peace with your money and making peace with yourself, being at peace. And peace doesn't mean to be in a place where there is no noise, trouble, or hard work. It means to be in the midst of all those things and still be calm in your heart. So we're going to wind down here with some healing techniques, which are less traditional ways for financial healing. Embrace hope. We have to give clients hope, because that's the only way to open the door to change. Hopelessness closes it. We want to help clients acknowledge money as a problem and know that the problem has a solution. We want to help them forgive all the past poor choices or mismanagement of money, and help them accept that they do deserve better, because they do. And to recognize that they're the only ones that can do this. Only you can heal you. It's very true. Identify your values and priorities. That's an important piece of it. It isn't just about the dollars, cents, budgets, debt. Commit to change. Commitment is where it all begins. Connect to your self-worth. That's that whole relationship with self. Set personal and financial boundaries. If we don't have boundaries, it's hard to feel safe or be smart financially. Develop a personal spending and savings plan, which is our version of a budget. Nobody likes the B word for budget. They just don't. Does everybody need a budget? Yeah, actually they do. But it's not the most engaging tool for getting clients motivated and involved in taking control of their money and gaining control of their lives. We want to help clients silence their inner critic that's telling them they're not smart enough, they can't do this. We want to help them give themselves permission to nurture greater financial health and encourage them to take ownership of their own financial futures. To understand that taking control of your money gives you control of your life. And to understand that creating financial health may be challenging, but it's unlikely to be as difficult as they may actually expect it to be. And winding down, take Self-care seriously. We've done a number of webinars that are recorded on the website on self-care, especially financial self-care. Let go of shame and blame. Never confuse your self-worth with your net worth. Identify and avoid your financial stressors. They are not your friend. Spend time and money as if each were precious and non-replaceable, because certainly time is not replaceable. And locus of control. Does the client believe he or she controls his or her destiny, or that destiny is out of his or her control? It's a really simple way of engaging clients that can make a difference. Locus of control. And we have to factor in social determinants of health. And of course, all of these, especially these last two, could be complete trainings in and of themselves. But I really wanted to add those two to the list. So, what part of this training? This is the last poll, and it is about what resonated most for you. This is definitely not a question or a poll I've done in the past. Olga, can they pick more than one?
For this question, I don't think so. Yeah,
Okay.
I just answer.
Okay. I forgot to tell you that.
Sorry, I haven't asked you.
Not a problem. There are some others that people are putting in. So when we go to the Q&A, maybe you can include them. Okay. Let's finish up. If you want to add something, go ahead. And we'll count it down. 3, 2, 1. And I'll close it. And I'll share it. Thanks, everybody, for responding to these. And I'll go ahead and hide it. And we will finish up this training. So before the question and answer part, I want you to know that these are our next two webinars. Get the most college for the least cost, and gifting children a healthy relationship with money. We do one every month. And we recently added the wisdom and words of financial social work graduates to our website. These are graduate essays. I think they're fabulous. They're on such a wide range of topics from our graduates. And today, I am so excited to introduce our brand new ebook, Financial Social Work Leaders in Financial Behavioral Health. Olga, are you going to put that link into the chat box?
Yes, sure. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you will be able to click that link to download it. And at the very end of the ebook is a financial behavioral health pledge that you can actually sign and date. And if you like, you can share it on social media, because I want everyone to remember the clients overwhelmed by financial problems, stress, anxiety, and trauma they didn't know how to prevent and have no idea how to fix are unable to learn, improve, or practice new money skills. That is one of the most important things I've shared with you today. So at this truly important and watershed moment, remember to factor in financial trauma, go beyond dollars, cents, debt budgets, and crisis management. Empower clients to heal their relationship with money and self. And for sure, invite financial behavioral health into your own life, your classrooms, your workplaces, practices, client work, and casework. So, financial social work certification is a self-study, self-paced process that our students have 6 months to complete. And we have thousands of graduates across the country and around the world. There is a final exam that our students have 2 weeks to finish. It is an open book exam. And once a month, our professional network meets on Zoom. And we have a LinkedIn and a Facebook group on Zoom for the professional network. And for those of you who attended today, this is something we've never done before, but we are offering a 10% discount on the cost of the certification. That coupon code is 2021 May 10, and it applies to the one-time payment. We have payment plans on the website, but the discount is for the one-time pay. And okay, we finished just about at 3 o'clock. But if you have some questions for me, I know people need to get going, but I will stay on a little while and answer some questions if you have them, Olga.
Yes, we have questions. First question, how do you assist clients begin to recognize intergenerational poverty and to begin to heal from financial trauma while working within a system and society that further reinforces the trauma?
How do we start the healing process within an organization or system that feels what about the trauma?
I just can repeat the question. How do you assist clients begin to recognize intergenerational poverty and to begin to heal from financial trauma while working with the system and society that further reinforces the trauma?
I really apologize, but I'm not understanding that question. I wonder if I could pull it up myself. Let's go on to the next question.
Can I get some more information on financial stressor triggers?
Oh, well, each of us has it's a really good question. Each of us has a trigger that brings on the financial stress. We could we would help clients identify what that is. For some of us, it might be being invited out with friends to eat in a restaurant that you can't afford. So how do you handle that situation? Do you actually say you can't go? Do you go and not enjoy the meal because you're so worried about the cost or worried that everybody's going to decide to share the cost? So what triggers that? What makes you, is it a bill that comes in the mail? Is it, I have worked with clients who just don't open their mail. They may have the money to pay their bills. And of course, most of us have all of those automated or at least coming in through email. But is it seeing your electric bill in your inbox? So identifying and then avoiding those triggers. Now, you would not be able to avoid the trigger of the email from your energy company, so we could develop steps for you to prepare for when it comes and hopefully be in a place where you can pay it. When it's about going out to dinner or shopping, how do you want to respond to those kinds of situations? Because they're real triggers. I hope that's helpful.
Okay. Next question. About this certification, does this certification apply to people who have advanced degrees in counseling, not social work?
Oh, we have as many non-social workers as social workers. And actually, I had a slide in there, we must have skipped it, about how this work helps healers to heal. And it is an important piece of the certification because I created it to make sure that our students and graduates had the skills and the tools and the knowledge to improve their own financial futures. So we have graduates, certainly our graduates in other countries don't have access to the CEUs that come with it, and all of our non-social worker graduates aren't looking for those CEUs. So absolutely, yes.
Mm-hmm. Next question from Marva. Post-pandemic, do you find people have greater sense of hopelessness and helpless? Just general question, I guess.
Do I feel that they have a greater sense of hopelessness now?
Yeah, and helpless.
People are struggling, and they've been on this roller coaster of some subsidies, no subsidies. We know that the landlords haven't honored the requirement to not evict. We have so much going on. I think, yes, I think that people are much more stressed. We don't know. I think that the ebook will lay out some of that even better, but we don't know what comes next. We just don't know what comes next, especially for many of the clients that we work with.
Mm-hmm. The next question is related to the first question, actually, from Karina. I had the same question about generational poverty. When a young adult has to learn financial literacy not only for themselves and future family, but for their elder family members who depend on them as well. An extra layer is added when they are not white, can be subject to a lot of legal problems due to lack of information and targeting.
The one common theme that I hear from our students and graduates time and again is, I wish I had known this information 5 years ago, 10 years ago, when I was younger, when I was wherever or whatever. And it is very frustrating that we continue to raise generation after generation. We just insist on generational poverty. We have generation after generation of financial illiteracy. And I'd rather answer some other questions than get on my soapbox and talk about why we won't and don't teach this in school, and the fact that parents who don't feel confident or competent themselves with their own finances are expected to teach their children, and that's not happening. It's not likely to happen. We need to help every generation and at every stage of life has these financial expectations, and they once belonged to the bosses we worked for or the government. But now, so many individuals are just left on their own to prepare for retirement, to find the money for health care, a lot of the things that vanished when the jobs vanished in 2020. There are a lot of problems out there for people financially. And I hate to sound negative and pessimistic. I think it's the reality. And I think that there's a lot that we as helping professionals can do about it. I sure believe that.
Okay, thank you, Rita. Next question from Donald. How do you use financial social work model to help people in extreme poverty in developing countries?
Well, that's one I've never been asked, but one thing I have been asked is how do we help clients who have no money? And I think that really ties into this particular question with regard to financial. The model, financial social work, is about engagement, education, motivation, validation, and support. So it isn't a method for giving money to clients, to people living in poverty. It's a method for empowering people living in poverty to understand, to provide them with the hope they need and the skills and the tools. We know about micro businesses. There are those who feel that so many people in this country living in poverty will not, do not, aren't interested in financial health, in learning to do better. But when we accept that, we limit their lives and the extent of our work. We have to believe that people care about having better lives and help them learn how to create better lives, to know that there is something better out there for him. If you've grown up in generational poverty, you may be comfortable with that. My concern every minute of all the years I've been doing this is disappearing social supports and benefits. They're much less available today than they were 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. What happens if the politicians, the political environment reverts back to what it's been the past few years when everything was about taking away SNAP, taking away benefits, requiring clients to look for jobs or be drug tested? We need to empower clients to want more and to do more to get it. That's my belief.
Thank you, Rita. Last few questions. What is the role of financial social work in financial behavioral health?
Well, financial social work, if you remember, financial behavioral health is about identifying, addressing, and reducing the problem, stress, anxiety, shame, and other harmful feelings that result when money and physical, mental, emotional health negatively converge. So financial social work is that process. it actualizes how we do that. It makes it doable. It isn't just about talking about financial freedom or financial stability. It's providing the tools and the skills so that the financial social work graduates can empower clients to be able to be healthier and to practice better ways of living.
Okay, and the last question, why do you talk about financial behavioral health and financial health and wellness?
We need to spread the word about financial health and wellness, and we need to grow a network and a profession, a place for everyone doing this kind of work to come together and be resources and be available to make a difference in clients' lives. And financial social work is the tool to help people get through and survive financial trauma and move on to financial health and wellness. It's what we do. It's what we need.
Okay, Rita, that's all we have.
Well, thanks everybody for joining us. I hope we'll see you back here next month for next month's webinar. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye now.